Hello all! I'm Aiden Yolo, and before you ask, yes, that is my real last name.
And I'm Sophie Boss, and that's also my real last name.
And welcome to episode 1 of 2HP, a geeky podcast for literally everyone.
Today, our topic is the most popular trading card game ever,
Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
So we are really hitting it hard with the geeky theme here.
Yeah, we are going straight into full geek. Magic the Gathering is one of our favorite pastimes. We have spent a lot of time and money on it.
Especially during quarantine.
For sure. We have played so many games during quarantine.
But yeah, so let's start off with explaining the game. We're going to give you all a little introduction and just sort of chat about the game itself.
Yeah.
To start off.
Absolutely.
So, Magic the Gathering was the first ever modern trading card game. It was created in 1993 by Richard Garfield.
And the lore goes super, super deep with planeswalkers and wars and tons of strange creatures. Some of them you see in other forms of media and some you don't. Like Eldrazi and slivers and saprolings. But then there's also things like titans and elementals and elves and all that kind of stuff.
They sort of pull from other fantasy aspects and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Magic is a world filled with, magic.
Yes.
There are 5 different colors of what's called mana in Magic the Gathering, and these 5 colors are sort of what the entire game and sort of the entire world and lore are sort of based around and built up of. So those 5 colors are white, blue, black, red, and green.
Yes, and we went on to the MTG Wiki to get some very specific
Keywords,
yeah, to explain to you, like, what each of the colors stand for in the game. So there is white, which is, like, peace, law, structure, selflessness, and equality. This is a very militarized sort of color in the game. If you want to play with large regiments of small creatures, this is the color that you would be playing.
Yeah, the next color is blue, which is all about knowledge and deceit and being cautious but deliberate and perfecting every aspect of the game. So blue deals a lot with cards that you can play on your opponent's turns to sort of control the game. It also deals a lot with drawing cards, so you can draw as many cards as you want so that you have the right tool for any situation.
Yeah. And there is black, which is power, self-interest, death, and sacrifice. And black wants to be uninhibited. It wants nothing to stop it where it's going. And in black, you're going to deal a lot with taking others' life so you can gain life. You're going to deal with sacrificing your own things that you control so you can get more benefits. And black is all about getting to the top and not caring who you crush while you get there.
Yeah, exactly. So then there's red, which is all about freedom and raw emotion, and it's very, very active and impulsive, but also destructive. So red is a really fast color. Red deals a lot with playing a lot of spells in one turn to deal a lot of damage directly to their opponent. And it's just, it's really based around sort of playing cards faster than any of the other colors so that you can overwhelm your opponent before they can build up any of their tools.
Mm-hmm. And the last color is green. Green is very much based in nature and wildlife. Everything is connected. It's very spiritual and traditional. Green is very also instinctual. Like, green is about going with how nature works naturally without intervention. So this is big, strong creatures that will beat down your opponents. And this is, mostly the creature thing. The green is very heavy on the big creatures.
Yep, building up big creatures to just hit your opponent in the face with as much power as possible.
Exactly.
So now we're going to explain the actual rules of playing the game a little bit. The easiest way to break it down is there are 3 main phases of the game. There's your main phase, and then there's a combat phase where you swing out and block with your creatures. And then you have another main phase, and your main phases are where you use your mana that you can produce to cast your spells. And the way you get that mana is by playing what are called land cards. So you can only play one land card per turn, but there are other cards that help you get more lands out on the field. So your lands are your magic ability.
Yeah, and these are your most important resource in the game.
Yep, you draw from your lands to get the magic you need to cast your big spells to play the game.
Yeah. So there are a bunch of different types of cards in Magic. There are 7 main card types. There are lands, which we just talked about, creatures, instants, sorceries, enchantments, and artifacts, and also planeswalkers. So creatures are exactly what they sound like. These are going to be your main fighters. These are what are going to deal damage to your opponents during your combat phases.
Instants are spells that you cast to give a certain effect, and then the actual physical card just goes away to your graveyard. The thing about instances are that you can cast them at any point during the game. Most of your spells you can only cast on your main phase, the one before combat or after combat. But instances you can cast during combat, you can cast before your turn starts, you can cast in the middle of someone else's turn. Instance you can cast at any point during the game. And then there are sorcery cards, which are basically exactly like instants, except you can only cast them on your main phases of the game. So enchantments are going to be static abilities that sit on your field but help you at the beginning of every turn or at a certain point during every turn, or buff up your field in some way. But they can also be the targets of your opponent's spells and abilities as well. And then there's artifacts, which are similar to enchantments, but they do different stuff. A lot of artifacts, you can use your mana you get from your lands to cast, and then they themselves will tap for more mana. So that's one way to get more sort of currency to cast your spells out. There's also artifacts that sort of just sit on your field to make your creatures bigger and stronger, or give your creatures some effect. A lot of artifacts also help you get more creatures onto the battlefield without having to use your mana to cast them.
And the last card type is Planeswalkers. Now, Planeswalkers are a very interesting and unique type of card in the game. Planeswalkers are probably the most similar to creatures, I suppose. But
kind of, sort of. Planeswalkers are sort of their own player within the game that are helping you as the player. Because technically in the lore and the story of Magic the Gathering, you yourself are playing as a planeswalker.
Yeah.
And all of the cards in your deck are the spells that you are casting.
Yeah.
As this character within the world.
Exactly. So with a planeswalker card on your field, it stays on your field just like an enchantment, artifact, or creature.
Those cards are called permanents when they stay on your battlefield.
Exactly. And they start with a certain number of loyalty counters, and you can add or remove loyalty counters from them to do certain abilities that are listed on the card.
So that's kind of like those planeswalkers, those are the spells that they have that they can cast and use while you have the cards in your deck.
Exactly.
So one of the sort of like basic trading card game aspects that probably everybody knows are the different rarities of the cards, and that's one of the things that make the game so fun. There are common, uncommon, rare, and mythic rare cards. So common and uncommon, exactly what they sound like. They're the easiest to come by. They're usually not very expensive. They don't really do too much. There are a lot of really good ones, but as a general rule, common and uncommons are going to be sort of like the lesser cards, the easier to come by, the not as powerful. And then there are rares, which are harder to come by, and they're going to be stronger, do better effects, help you win the game easier. And then the mythic rares are the cream of the crop, best cards, most expensive cards when you buy cards individually and everything.
Yeah. And, I mean, there are certainly some rares and uncommons that can get up there in price, but...
Well, obviously, as a general rule.
As a general rule, mythics are going to cost more if you are buying individual cards.
Mm-hmm.
However, you can always buy booster packs or gift boxes or things like that to get a chance at getting those expensive cards without paying the premium price.
Exactly.
And that's one of the fun parts about Magic. The booster packs are one of my favorite parts.
So the last main thing to talk about the game as a whole is that in Magic the Gathering, there are different formats of which you could play the game. So a lot of games, it's just like Yu-Gi-Oh! There's just Yu-Gi-Oh! You just play Yu-Gi-Oh! Or you don't. You know, Pokemon, there's just Pokemon the game. But Magic, there are different games within Magic. Like there's the standard format, which has different rules from the Brawl format, which has completely different rules from the Draft format.
There are also things like Modern and Vintage that make you only able to use
newer or older cards.
Yeah, exactly. And then there is Commander. Commander is our favorite.
Yep, it's the main
format.
It's the main format that we both play, and that a lot of our friends play.
Yeah. And Commander is probably the most unique format within Magic. The rules differ probably the most from all of the other formats. All of the basic rules are the same throughout all of the formats. It mostly, the difference between formats is
the deck building
deck
requirements.
Yes,
and
exactly.
the way the actual decks themselves work, whereas the actual mechanics of the game that we just explained, like using your lands to get mana to cast your spells, all of that is the same across all Magic the Gathering. But then the different formats are different specific rules on building your decks for it.
Yeah, for example, in standard format, you can have up to 4 of the same card within your deck, besides basic lands. And in Commander, it's a quote-unquote singleton format, and you can only have 1 of each card name in your deck, unless specifically stated otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And in Magic, there's always that unless specifically stated otherwise.
Yeah, there are a lot of cards in Magic that sort of break their own rules and change the rules for that specific card and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So that's sort of a basic overview of the game as a whole. So now we're going to move on to the fandom culture / structure, and we're going to sort of talk about how geeks of Magic the Gathering celebrate their fandom and be able to play it on a regular basis and all that fun stuff.
One of the biggest ways that you will see the Magic the Gathering culture in the real world is your local playgroups and tournaments at local gaming stores or with friends. I mean, just the other day, we went to the park and played Magic with 3 of our friends. Yeah, 3 of our friends at an appropriate social distance, and we sanitized everything beforehand.
Exactly.
And local game stores often have play groups that you can come join or tournaments that you can participate in for prizes, whether that prize is like a couple of booster packs or a big cash prize.
Another big way that local game stores really get to celebrate this trading card game is something called pre-release events. And so these are specific events that take place before the newest set of Magic cards is released for the world to purchase. These usually cost $20 to $25, and it's just a little box with 6 booster packs.
6 booster packs, yes.
And then, so you can either just buy that, and then you also get a cool spin down D20 die, specifically for the set.
And that's how you keep track of your life.
Yeah, that is one of the ways. So while you can just buy the box and then take the booster packs, they also have big events and have a little tournament where you open up your booster packs and then use those cards to put together a 40 to 60 card deck and then play the standard format of the game.
Yeah, and it's super fun. Most of the decks during pre-release events are pretty low powered, so it's super fun to just play and try and make this deck that you threw together out of your booster packs function like it should. And a lot of the time it doesn't, and it's great.
And it's just a really, really good fun way that people get to celebrate this thing that they love.
Yeah. Another way that people participate in Magic the Gathering and play and show that they love it is through Magic the Gathering Arena.
Yep.
It is an online game released by Wizards of the Coast, who is the publisher of Magic the Gathering currently. It is basically just playing Magic the Gathering online with random strangers or your friends. It's super fun. I've been playing it a lot the last couple of days. I love it. They take you through all of the basic rules and they teach you about all of the colors before you can even play with other players. And it's also a really great way to learn the rules. There are also a ton of online forums and websites. A cool thing that they do is there's an online judges chat. So if you're in the middle of a game and you don't know what the specific ruling on a situation is,
or you just have like an argument with a friend about how a card should be read.
Yeah, you can just go on to this chat room where it's full of like official certified Magic the Gathering tournament judges, and they will tell you the ruling on those cards. It's super cool.
It's awesome. The next sort of biggest way that geeks all around the world get to celebrate this fandom are conventions. It's going to be the biggest way that really anything gets celebrated. There are many different conventions for Magic the Gathering, sort of in general. Like Gen Con is a 4-day convention in Indianapolis that is focused solely on tabletop gaming. So any trading card game, any role-playing game like Dungeons and Dragons or Starfinder, stuff like that.
And a whole bunch of just your regular game night games, too. Just board games. It's
like Monopoly, like Game of Life, all that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff like that at Gen Con.
There are also Magic Fests, multiple that are held all across the country.
I think all across the world.
All across the world, yeah. Mm-hmm. These are conventions that are solely based just around Magic the Gathering. So it's for players of the game to get together, meet new people, play against new different decks, and play all the different formats of Magic the Gathering. Another big way is there's actually a professional tour of Magic the Gathering where people can play this professionally as a job. These are the highest end players who build the strongest decks and everything. And there are huge tournaments that are held. They are streamed online so that people all across the world can partake in and watch these top echelon players compete at the highest level for large cash prizes.
Yeah, with these crazy complex decks that work super quickly, and it's wild seeing the super high level decks that people can build. And the last thing, or not the last way that people show
one of the biggest
ways that people show their interest in Magic the Gathering.
Definitely one of the most fun.
Yeah, and definitely one of the most labor intensive is cosplay. Cosplay is incredible. I am always in awe of cosplayers. And cosplay is short for costume play. And cosplay is when you put together a costume and makeup and wig and everything to look like a character from your favorite game or your favorite show or something like that. And there is a huge cosplay community around Magic the Gathering. And these cosplayers are incredibly talented. The skill that is shown in some of the cosplays that I've seen are, like, it's mind-blowing what people can do with just whatever they have around their house.
Yeah, with like styrofoam and old clothes that they found from 8 years ago.
Exactly. There's a lot of work with foam that is wild. Like full sets of armor made out of foam. And
you just wouldn't be able to tell from glancing at it.
It looks like metal.
Cosplayers are so talented.
Yeah, cosplay is mind-blowing.
Cosplay is awesome.
I love cosplay.
And specifically the characters that are within the multiple worlds of Magic the Gathering that people are able to sort of step into their shoes and bring them to life for all of us viewers and everything. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and these costumes have ridiculously high levels of detail that they're like identical to the cards, and it's amazing.
So now we're going to move on to why people geek out, / just our personal experiences. So for the last couple of years, quite a lot of my friends were really into Magic the Gathering. I remember my senior year of high school being in the musical and backstage at rehearsals. A lot of my friends would have their cards like laid out across the table, and they'd be playing a game, yelling at each other, screaming random words that I had no idea what they were saying. But it wasn't until just sometime back in late October, early November of just last year, so I'm still fairly new at the game. That was when two of my best friends, Taylor and John, were able to finally talk me into letting them teach me how to play. So we sat down, Taylor let me use one of his extra decks that he had on hand, and they taught me how to play a game of the Commander format in Magic the Gathering. And Commander is one of the most complex and hard to understand formats, and they decided to start me off there. But that's probably why it's my favorite to play to this day.
Yeah.
But after that one night, that turned into just a whole week of all of us playing every single night, them explaining more and more to me, and me sort of starting to pick it up better. And after just a few days, Taylor actually got out all of his extra cards that he wasn't using and helped me build my first ever Commander deck so that I could start playing. With my own personal deck that I put together, and I put my own sort of heart and soul and my own flavor into. My first deck is based all around the land cards that we were talking about. It's all about getting more lands into play than is normal and getting extra benefits off of those lands coming into play and hitting the battlefield. And I've upgraded him a lot and put in so many new cards that he's like almost a brand new deck, but there are still a few specific cards that that have stayed in him from the very beginning, from when I first put him together out of Taylor's sort of leftover cards. And he is just my favorite deck, my first deck. He's like my child. But Taylor also had this little game box called Magic Game Night, which is a little box that you can buy at any sort of big department store like Walmart or Target.
Yeah.
And it has 5 standard format decks, one for each of the 5 colors. And it's just a box designed to teach you how to play and get new players into the game. And both me and Sophie actually played that a lot throughout that first week of us learning the game to help us get started and start to understand the game more.
Yeah, no, that very box, that game night box, is exactly how I got into Magic. I didn't really know much about the game before I played the Game Nights box. This is the exact same time that Aiden was getting into it. And most of my knowledge was what I knew from playing D&D, and those fandoms overlap a lot. And there's also like the Ravnica sourcebook for D&D and things like that. So I knew a little bit about it. A sprinkling of the lore, a sprinkling of how it worked, but not nearly enough to like play the game. And I've always been a little interested in it, but it hasn't ever come up. Like, it's hard to get into when you don't have anyone around you who plays. And this was right when Aiden and I had started dating. Literally just like a couple days after we had gotten together. So needless to say, while I was interested in playing Magic to begin with, the fact that my new boyfriend was playing it did influence that a little bit.
You're welcome.
Thank you, darling. Yeah, so we played that Game Nights box quite a bit, and it was super fun and addicting. I started to pick up the rules really quickly, learning all the ins and outs and picking up the combos. And soon enough, one of our friends took us to Walmart to buy me the Geared Conclave Exile pre-constructed commander deck. And that's something that Wizards of the Coast does. They put together pre-constructed decks of the commander format and a few other formats as well, and just sell them at Walmart and Target and stuff. And I fell in love with this specific deck, this exact precon, when it was played on Game Nights with a K, which is a series on the Command Zone YouTube channel. And Lady Danger was playing this precon, and there's a card in it called Giant Adaphage. And basically what it says on the card is that when you deal damage to an opponent, you create a copy of that card with exactly the same attributes as the original card. So you can create hordes of this card if you can deal enough damage, or if you can deal damage enough times. And she had like 16 or 24 or something giant adaphages out on the field, and I was like, yes, that's what I want to do when I play Magic. I want to do that right there. And so John bought me that Geared Conclave Exile precon, and I was hooked. Geared is still my primary deck. He is my baby. He is my child. I love him so very much. And he is completely different from when I started, like Aiden said, with his Windgrace deck. He has been upgraded so much. He's totally different from when I got him. It's just totally exploded into an obsession since then. So yeah, thanks, John.
So now to talk about just a couple of the things that we've heard from other people on specifically why they love this game so much.
My friend Mike on Twitter at MikeRuffTheHomes said, I have always been fascinated by the lore, the flavor text, the novels, the MTG website articles, everything that puts a story focus together. I love making theme and story decks over meta or competitive decks. The expansiveness of it and the variety of planes and people. So yeah, thank you, Mike, for that insight. Yeah, the lore is crazy deep.
It's super just, well, he said it, expansive. There's so much going on, all of the different planes of existence and all of the different creatures that exist on all of those planes. It's insane.
Yeah.
Another quote we got from our friend John, the one who sort of started this all.
Yes.
He said, quote, honestly, it's the idea of having control of the situation at hand. Whether I'm one life away from death or one card away from a win, it offers endless possibilities and allows me to obtain/play each possibility with each game I play. Also, it's a very unique game every time one plays the game, regardless of if it's the same deck or not. End quote. It's the opposition of those two comments that really show the just how broad the appeal of this trading card game is. Like, Mike loves the story and the lore and the flavor text on the cards and everything, where John really sort of vibes with the actual strategic gameplay of of playing the game.
Exactly.
And everything.
You can build decks entirely around the stories that are told in the lore, and while those usually aren't going to be as powerful as the more competitive level decks, they're still super fun to play and see and build. But you can also have a ton of fun building those high power competitive level decks.
Finding the different cards that synergize with each other super well and do crazy combos that can win you a game with just 2 cards.
I have done that on accident. But no, yeah, it's super, super fun to build decks with both of those ways. Magic just has so much of a broad appeal. I love it.
So honestly, whatever you're looking for, whether it's just the high fantasy, just the fantasy worlds, or a strategic game that's much more fun than chess, Magic is for you.
Yeah. So yeah, now let's tell you a little bit about how to get into Magic, how to get into the geeking.
So local game stores are the absolute best way to get into and get more information on Magic the Gathering. Just find your local comic book shop and you could chat with the person who works there, and they are sure to get you more information. Something that a lot of local game stores actually do are things called welcome decks. If you just go in and ask the person at the counter about Magic the Gathering, you're thinking about getting into it and wondering if they have a welcome deck, it's usually something that most game stores will have on hand, and these are just freely distributed standard decks so that you have cards at your disposal to start learning how to play.
Yeah, they're usually on the lower power end and
Yeah,
kind
they're
of
not
thrown
good decks.
together.
They're not good decks, but they are
playable.
a conglomerate of cards that you can use to start learning the game.
Yeah. Another way to do it, if you're not really into the standard format, is getting a Commander Precon. This is a super accessible way to get a deck that you can play the Commander format with. I mean, you just buy it, and there it is. There's your deck. And they also have little fold-out flyer thing that comes with it that will tell you all about, like, the different cards that you can run as your commander in the deck, and some of the key cards in the deck's construction, and I believe it comes with some of the rules of Magic, and it'll tell you about all the phases and things like that. So that's a really good starter thing for Magic.
Yeah, definitely. Another super simple way to get into the game is, like we had mentioned earlier, Magic Arena Online. It's available for free on both Mac and PC.
Yeah.
And it's just very, very simply walks you through all of the rules of the game, the different phases of your turn, drawing your card, playing your lands, and stuff like that. And it's, I mean, just visually too, it's beautiful, and it just makes it super duper accessible for anyone to learn the basic rules of the game.
Yeah, and something really nice that I've discovered as a non-beginner playing Magic Arena, if you know what Magic Arena is, you'll know that the color challenges are the first thing that you have to complete in Magic Arena to play against other people. I haven't even completed the color challenges yet, but even just playing for this long, it has been so nice, because even if you're a higher level player who knows all of your combos and knows everything, there's still a chance that you're going to miss parts of those combos. You're going to forget to do them, because when you're playing with physical cards, you have to make sure to know everything that's on your board and everything that triggers another card's effect. And on Magic Arena, it does it all for you. It's so nice.
It's just really, really easy to just click through and just get to play the game and learn, and it like has pop-ups, so it actually shows you what you're doing and what the game is sort of running through for you. It doesn't just automatically do it. Yeah. Like, it shows you what it's doing when it's doing it.
Exactly.
Which is the great part.
Yeah. Another thing is Twitch and YouTube channels. There's a world of streamers and YouTubers out there who stream Magic Arena on Twitch and make videos on YouTube on every aspect of the game. There are literally videos about every possible thing you could imagine.
Yep, you could find videos on the rules, people explaining the rules of the game. You could find videos on people just talking about the lore and the different stories of the set of cards that comes out. You could find play videos of people actually playing the game. Mm-hmm. You could find videos about people building specific decks around a color or strategy.
A couple of our favorite YouTube channels are The Command Zone, which is the one I mentioned earlier with the Game Nights series. They are fantastic. It's Josh Lee Kwai and Jimmy Wong. They are hilarious and just super cool guys. And then there's the Commander's Quarters. This is all about building commander decks on a budget.
There's also just a how to play Magic video on Magic the Gathering's YouTube channel. This is actually with Jimmy Wong from the Command Zone YouTube channel. But it has beautifully animated visuals, and it's just a really easy way to just watch, and Jimmy walks you through all of the basic rules of your turn in Magic the Gathering. And it makes it super duper easy to digest and really understand everything that's going on. There are also articles online that you could read about the game.
Yeah, there's one on Geek and Sundry that's about how and where to get started. And this one is more about choosing which format that you want to play. This talks you through every format that is commonly played, basically. And we'll leave the link in the episode description so you can check it out there.
For all of these articles.
Yeah, but this is super useful. It gives you summaries on all of the formats, so you can choose which one you want to start with. And there is also an article called New Magic Players, Everything You Need to Know About Getting into Magic the Gathering, and it's by Claire Stevenson on manaleak.com. It's super comprehensive, and it talks you through every possible question you could have when you're starting to get into Magic the Gathering. I glanced through this article and read a bunch of it. It is super good. I absolutely love it. It answers all of your questions. It tells you what questions you should ask, like at your local game stores and things like that. It's a fantastic article.
Yeah, and the last one we're going to talk about isn't a specific article, but a website, the Magic the Gathering Wiki, which we had mentioned earlier in the episode. But it will have pretty much all of the information you'll need, but mainly it will be one of the better places to get deeper information on the lore and the story of Magic the Gathering. I mean, if you go to the front page, it'll just have like 5 or 6 different links. And it'll ask you, like, what are you here for? Do you want to read about the story? Do you want to read about the rules? Do you want to read about the different formats? And you can just click the link and start reading. Like we had mentioned, there will be links to all 3 of these articles down in the description below.
Absolutely.
I think that's it.
Yeah, and with that, our first episode is complete. Thank you all for listening this far.
Yeah, if you're still with us, we must be doing at least one thing right. So let us know what you think of the new podcast. Leave comments on YouTube.
Leave reviews on your listening platform of choice, and chat with us on Twitter and Instagram at 2HPcast. That is the number 2HPcast.
You can also find each of us individually on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Nevrent, spelt Nevrent.
And I'm at Frilifia, Frillyfia. Don't be shy. We're brand new, so we would much appreciate all of your input.
You know what else we would appreciate?
What is that, darling?
For you to subscribe on the YouTube channel and following the podcast on whichever listening platform your heart desires.
You're definitely gonna want to, because next time we're gonna be talking about something just a little bit,
just slightly,
tiny bit different.
Houseplants, which is not something I ever thought of as counting as a fandom.
It definitely is, and I would know it.
But that is exactly the point of this podcast.
Yes, we want to show you all of the fandoms, whether they are traditionally thought of as fandoms or not.
And I am very excited to be getting more information and delving into a brand new world for me.
I am excited to tell you all about houseplants because I love them a lot. And you would know that because there's so many houseplants around our house.
Yep. So that will be going up at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, August 26th, just 2 weeks from now. So make sure to check back for all that bright sunshine for your chlorophyll-filled ears.
Yep. Okay, yep. Good job, honey.
That just happened.
Okay, cool.
Until then, command those creatures.
And keep walking those planes.
Bye, friends.